It begins, like so many iconic TV moments, not with shouting, not with chaos, but with an almost unnerving calm. The studio lights are sharp, the cameras glide across the panel, and at the center sits Piers Morgan, the man who thrives on confrontation, who has built his career on making others uncomfortable, on demanding answers, and on turning debates into battlegrounds. Across from him, Eleanor Mills, a journalist, a commentator, and someone who knows very well what happens when you step into Morgan's arena. She doesn't arrive with fireworks. She doesn't need theatrics. Her weapon is clarity, precision, and the kind of composure that rattles a man who feeds on noise. The conversation starts innocently enough. Piers, with that familiar smirk, leans forward, his voice sharp as ever, cuts straight into the first question. It's framed, as always, to provoke, to trap, to push Eleanor into a corner. He thrives on that moment, the pause before his opponent stumbles. But tonight, something is different. Eleanor doesn't stumble. She doesn't flinch. Instead, she looks him dead in the eye and dismantles his premise piece by piece, calmly, firmly, with a confidence that makes the audience lean forward. She takes his question designed to corner her and turns it into her own statement, leaving him blinking, almost caught off guard. For a split-second silence, the kind of silence that tells you the balance of power in the room has shifted. The tension is subtle, but it's there. Piers presses harder. His tone sharpens. He interrupts, tries to bulldoze, to dominate the airtime. This is his strategy: overwhelm, outpace, control the tempo. But Eleanor refuses to play that game. She waits, patiently. Every time he cuts across, she pauses. And when she speaks again, it's with words so deliberate that the interruptions only make her sound stronger. And then comes the moment, the one that nobody saw coming. Piers asks a question, loaded sharp, dripping with challenge. He expects Eleanor to defend, to retreat, to react. Instead, she flips it. She doesn't defend herself. She doesn't react to him. She turns the question back onto him. And suddenly, the great interrogator, the man who prides himself on putting others on the spot, finds himself exposed. The air in the studio changes. Viewers at home can feel it through the screen. This isn't just another panel clash. This is the moment when Eleanor Mills puts Piers Morgan exactly where he's least comfortable, in the hot seat. The silence after. Eleanor's counter-question hangs heavy in the air. For the first time, the viewers don't see Piers in his usual stance of control. They see him leaning back, searching for a response, his eyes narrowing. He's not used to this. He's used to people scrambling, fumbling, or stuttering under his pressure. Eleanor doesn't give him that satisfaction. Instead, she leans forward, her tone measured but sharp, and says, "Piers, you demand accountability from everyone who sits in this chair. But what about accountability from the one asking the questions?" The line slices through the air. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's calm, precise, and devastating. The audience reacts with a subtle murmur, some even applauding. Under their breath, it's a sound of recognition. The recognition that someone has dared to do what few manage. Hold Piers Morgan to his own standard. Piers tries to recover. His voice rises slightly, the trademark blend of indignation and authority. He launches into a speech, listing facts, shaping his narrative, raising his hand as if sheer force can silence her point. But Eleanor, unshaken, waits. When he finishes, she delivers her rebuttal in one sentence that lands harder than his entire monologue. Her strategy is becoming clear. Where Piers uses volume, she uses silence. Where he uses speed, she uses patience. And that contrast makes her every word echo louder. As the back and forth continues, the cracks in Morgan's armor become visible. He starts repeating himself, rephrasing the same argument, circling the same points as though louder repetition might make them truer. Eleanor, meanwhile, introduces new angles, broader perspectives, questions that expand the debate rather than narrowing it. And then comes another pivotal moment. Piers interrupts her mid-sentence, as he so often does. He waves his hand, shakes his head, cuts her off. But Eleanor doesn't raise her voice to compete. She simply stops, waits for him to finish, and then in front of the cameras, the audience, the millions watching at home, she says, "You finished, Piers?" Because the viewers might actually want to hear an answer, not just a performance. The crowd reacts instantly, a ripple of laughter, a burst of claps. Even some of the crew behind the cameras struggle to hide their smiles. Eleanor has done what so few have achieved. She's stripped away the theatrics and exposed the showmanship beneath. Piers bristles, his cheeks flush slightly. He pushes back harder, throwing in statistics, anecdotes, the usual arsenal. But the more he pushes, the calmer she becomes. She doesn't just counter his points, she reframes the entire discussion. She says, "This isn't about you winning an argument, Piers. It's about people understanding the truth. And if you're more interested in headlines than honesty, then maybe it's time we talked about that instead." It's a dagger wrapped in velvet, and it lands. The audience erupts. Piers Morgan, the man who relishes making others squirm, has just been put squarely on the spot, again. And this time, it's not a fleeting moment. It's the new rhythm of the debate. Eleanor Mills has shifted the ground beneath his feet, and everyone watching knows it. By now, the tension in the studio is electric. You can feel it in the air. See it in the way the audience leans forward, nobody daring to blink in case they miss the next exchange. What started as another fiery Piers Morgan debate has transformed into something else entirely. A slow but undeniable shift of control. Piers, rattled by Eleanor's precision, begins to turn up the volume. His voice rises. His hand slaps the desk for emphasis. His sentences spill over each other in a rush to dominate the soundscape. It's his signature move, overwhelm the moment with sheer force. But Eleanor doesn't take the bait. She doesn't match his volume. Instead, she lowers hers. Every word is deliberate, every pause intentional. And the result, the louder Piers gets, the more powerful she sounds. She leans in and says, almost in a whisper, "When you shout, Piers, it doesn't make you right, it just makes you louder." The crowd bursts into applause. Some even stand. It's a cinematic moment, the kind that lives on in clips, replays, headlines. Piers tries to laugh it off. That trademark chuckle that masks irritation, but the laughter doesn't land. Eleanor has tapped into something deeper. The audience's unspoken frustration with his style of confrontation. She's voicing what many have thought but never dared to say, and she's doing it directly to him, on his own stage. The clash intensifies. Piers fires off a series of rapid questions, his eyes locked on Eleanor, trying to regain control. But she dismantles each one effortlessly. No hesitation, no stumbling. And then she does something unexpected. She stops answering his questions altogether and starts asking her own. What do you stand for, Piers? Beyond the outrage, beyond the headlines, what do you actually believe in? The studio falls silent. That question doesn't just cut through the noise. It cuts into Piers himself. For a moment he seems caught between the persona and the man. Does he answer honestly? Does he deflect? The hesitation is brief, but it's visible. And in that hesitation, Eleanor wins another round. Viewers at home are glued to their screens. Social media buzzing in real time lights up with reactions, tweets, posts, comments, all echoing the same sentiment. She's done it. She's finally put him on the spot. And then, as if to seal the shift, Eleanor delivers the line that defines the night, calmly, without theatrics. She says, "You've built a career holding people accountable. Piers, tonight, you're the one being held accountable, and it doesn't feel very comfortable, does it?" The audience explodes. Cheers, claps, even whistles fill the room. The camera cuts to Piers, and for once, he isn't smirking. He isn't laughing. He's searching for a response, and that search is the clearest sign yet of who controls the stage now. In that moment, the debate stops being a back and forth, it becomes a masterclass. Eleanor Mills isn't just surviving in Piers Morgan's arena. She's redefining it. The studio is alive with energy, the kind of raw anticipation that makes you forget you're watching television and convinces you you're witnessing history. For the last 45 minutes, Piers Morgan, the man who built his empire on sharp questions and relentless pressure, has found himself caught in a very different game. And EleanorMills.com, yet unyielding, has been the one holding the cards. Now, with the conversation entering its final stretch, the tension is unbearable. Piers, visibly unsettled, pushes forward with renewed aggression. His voice is louder, his gestures sharper, as if trying to drag the debate back under his control by sheer force of personality. But Eleanor doesn't falter. She leans back in her chair, relaxed, composed. Her body language alone speaks volumes. I am not intimidated. Every interruption is met with patience, every outburst with measured silence. She waits for the noise to subside, then delivers her lines with surgical precision. And then, in one of the most unforgettable moments of the night, she strikes again. "Piers," she says, her voice steady, "you've made a career out of holding others' feet to the fire. But when the fire is turned toward you, you squirm. Why is that?" The words hang in the air like smoke. The audience erupts into applause, clapping and cheering, many shaking their heads in disbelief at what they've just witnessed. For once, the king of confrontation is the one being confronted. Piers laughs, that short, clipped laugh he uses to mask irritation, and tries to recover. He pivots, throws out statistics, anecdotes, fiery rhetoric. He shifts topics, interrupts, accuses. But Eleanor remains unmoved. She listens, she nods, and when he finishes, she calmly dismantles his points one by one. No shouting, no theatrics, just logic, clarity, and conviction. And then comes the line that defines the evening. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. You see, Piers, the problem isn't that you ask tough questions. The problem is that you think asking questions absolves you from ever having to answer them yourself. The reaction is immediate. Gasps ripple through the audience, people clap, some even stand. Social media lights up instantly. Tweets and posts flood timelines. She nailed him. This is the moment. Clips are shared, dissected, celebrated. Piers shifts uncomfortably in his seat. For the first time, he doesn't seem to have a comeback ready. His usual arsenal of sarcasm and bravado seems thin against the calm force of Eleanor's words, and the silence, that split-second pause before he finally responds, tells everyone watching that she has landed the blow. But Eleanor isn't done. She continues, leaning in just slightly. Her tone is calm as ever. demand accountability from others, but what about your own accountability? You demand transparency, but what about your own biases? You challenge people to explain themselves, but when you're asked to do the same, you deflect. That isn't strength, Piers. That's avoidance. The crowd goes wild. Applause thunders through the studio. Even those who came expecting another typical Morgan clash know they're witnessing something extraordinary. Piers tries to reclaim ground, pushing back with a fiery monologue about freedom of speech, about his right to challenge, about his record as a journalist. His words are passionate, yes, but they feel defensive. And Eleanor, steady as stone, lets him finish before delivering the final stroke. Freedom of speech isn't the freedom to never be challenged, she says. And tonight, you've been challenged. Not by shouting, not by insults, but by the very thing you claim to respect most, truth. The audience roars. The camera pans across, faces glowing with excitement, even shock. Some are smiling, some nodding vigorously, others simply sitting in stunned silence. And there it is, the rare moment when Piers Morgan, the man known for dominating every discussion, every argument, every headline, has been firmly and undeniably put on the spot. As the program nears its end, Eleanor sits back in her chair, her composure never broken. She has made her point, not through aggression, not through volume, but through a steady insistence on accountability. The contrast between her calm strength and his defensive bluster tells the story better than any words could. The closing moments of the show feel different. Piers offers a few final remarks, but his tone is subdued. He thanks Eleanor, his words carefully chosen, the usual smirk absent. The cameras capture his face, still sharp, still commanding, but carrying a shadow of something unfamiliar, defeat. When the credits roll, the debate is over, but the impact is only just beginning. Within minutes, clips are circulating online. Headlines explode across media outlets. Eleanor Mills turns the tables on Piers Morgan. The night Piers was put on the spot. Calm destroys chaos in live debate. Commentators dissect the exchange, praising Eleanor's composure, highlighting her ability to outmaneuver one of television's most combative figures. Social feeds fill with praise, viewers calling it a masterclass in debate, the takedown nobody expected, proof that calm is stronger than noise. And for Piers Morgan, it becomes one of those rare nights, the kind that doesn't vanish after the credits roll, the kind that follows him, replayed, revisited, reminding everyone that even the sharpest questioner can be silenced when confronted with truth. For Eleanor Mills, it's a defining moment, a night when she didn't just debate Piers Morgan, she beat him at his own game. Not by shouting louder, but by proving that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes that whisper is enough to bring the house down.